Today we're talking about the value of comparison. Now, this is one of these things that, like so many others, you can use it to your advantage, you can use it to serve you and others, and you can use it in healthy ways, and the flip, you can use it to really destroy yourself and others and basically just have a bloody miserable life. So it's up to you. It really is. Value of choices. We've had that. Okay. It is up to you how you use comparison. Now, I will caveat that with saying, as human beings, we are naturally inclined to compare ourselves. We have this natural hierarchical system that we exist in. So we're always going, how do I square up to this person? How do I compare to this person over here? How do I fit? Where is my place? So I get that we're all doing it all the time, and companies have kind of clued into this, and they use this, and they target us specifically, and I believe it's Snapchat, and I only heard this on a podcast yesterday, I've never used the thing, but I believe they've come up with this new way of basically showing how you exist in your own little universe. So here's you, here's your best friend, here's their best friend, here's this, and it basically shows you how you compare to all your others. And I saw a Black Mirror episode the other week, and it was all about, oh, I'm rated as a 3.8, so I can't get into this club, and they're rated as a 4.3, but if they give me a like, then comparatively, I must be doing better. But if I get a like from a 1, then actually no, because I'm hanging around with 1s, and that's the kind of where we're going. So I want to go on to say the unhealthy side of things, the really, really fucking just devastatingly horrendous thing to happen to basically the Western world. Any people that are online on the apps, things like Instagram, anything where you're comparing, and Insta is that kind of main one where you're comparing, especially looks. People are so fixated on looks, this front-facing camera. How do I look today? Do I look like, there's more wrinkles now. So one of the things I put, compare yourself to your former self. However, if you're comparing yourself with regards to looks, especially ladies, if you're, thinking, well, 10 years ago me was way hotter, yeah, get a personality. Get skills, get techniques, get other things, be great in bed. You're not going to be as hot, you're not going to be as sexually desirable in that way, but you can still be just as attractive, just with different values, focusing on different things that are part of your character versus purely how you look. Because yeah, you are going to get more wrinkly, you are going to get more grey, you are going to get more saggy, and these things. Happens for guys as well. It's a bit easier for guys. We tend to stay in shape a bit longer. We tend to age more like fine wine, and that's my end there. I want a big beard, big chest hair and belly hair and everything, rippling six-pack, leathered skin, you know what I mean, all sort of fucking Asian sun spotty. But I'll be 120 years old and you never fucking know it. I wouldn't look a day over 90. But that idea, yes, we can, we can, sorry, I've completely lost my place here. But the idea of comparing looks, we are going to often just go downhill as we age, and there's kind of nothing we can do about it. We can do a lot to slow down the process. We can do a lot to look as good as we can look given our age, but at the same time, biology is biology, and these natural things happen. We all decay. Entropy is a thing, and it's going to wipe every single one of us out, okay? So that sort of side of things, comparing to one's former self can be great, but it can be really unhealthy, and especially, like I say, if it's purely on a looks side of things. There's other ways we can compare to our former selves, and it's way more healthy. Anyway, I digress. So the idea of comparing to our neighbours, keeping up with the Joneses, we used to call it, especially in England, we call it that. Don't know what you call it elsewhere. But the idea that, oh, matey down the road, he just got a promotion and he just got a new car and he was able to buy his wife, and his kids got la 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 la. Yeah, and I need to be able to do that. I need to show that I'm just as good as a provider as he is, so I need to do this. Women, you do the same things in different ways. Oh, she just got new shoes, she just got a new bag, she just got taken on holiday, she just got this. And so we all, again, comparatively, it's the idea of the Joneses. They're not your friends necessarily, they're your neighbours. They're people in your proximity that you see and that influence you in that way. But again, the trouble is we're not comparing to just the people in our proximity anymore. I do this because my neighbours are out there. That way's the garden and behind me's a cricket pitch, so that's my neighbours. It's funny how our brains work, isn't it? So that proximity, we've got these portals that I'm doing this on right now. That's my portal to you, but you've got this portal to anything. You can compare anyone who's on this other portal at the other side of the world, fucking wherever they might be, they might not even be alive anymore. And yet you're comparing yourself to them. You know, and this, chances are, it's not even the thing you think it is. It's just it's a really curated part of it. And yet you're comparing your whole self to this one slice, this one curated slice. And then you just fill in the blanks. We compare in these really negative ways. You think, oh, okay, mate, he's just got a new car, he's got a promotion, he's got this, he's bought his wife this, and he's bought his kids these new toys. But what if the way he got those things was that he was at work all the time and he was cheating on his wife with his secretary and he was doing dodgy business deals in order to... So those presents are actually out of guilt. But you compare, you go, oh, man, I need what he's got. I should be living... But do you want to do those same things? Do you want to cheat? I mean, I'm not saying you have a wife, I'm not saying you have kids. It's just purely conceptual. I don't have a wife, I don't have kids, I can't do these things myself. But the idea that you see this in someone else, you think, well, I want that. I'm comparing myself to that. But you don't know the full story. You don't know. That might have been a gift from a dead relative. You don't know. And yet we feel, oh no, I must keep up, I must do this, I must... Compared to them, I'm useless. Compared to the person who's the best in the world, that I've never fucking met, never interacted with, but I follow every day and I watch everything they do like a pervert. Remember I said that the other day? If all you do is fucking watch and like and then you're a perv. Do some of your own shit and then start comparing yourself to people in actual real life versus on these fucking screens, because it ain't all that you think that it is. So we can feel less than, we can feel not enough, we can undervalue ourselves, we can doubt ourselves, we can lose all self-esteem and self-respect. And why? Just because we're making these comparisons and then we're filling in the blanks. Compared to you financially, yes, they may be doing great, but they might have shit relationships, shitty health. They might have a really shitty mental game. Their head might just be full of toxic. Yeah, they might have material gains, but again, you don't know how they got that. So when we compare, constantly compare outside of ourselves like this, it's so unhealthy, it's so detrimental, not just to ourselves, but to anyone around us, because then they too feel like they have to keep up with the Joneses. And they're, well, he's doing it, so I've got to do it. She's doing it, so I've got to do it. If everyone came off TikTok tomorrow, then great. But because if it's, oh, well, I choose to come off, but if I choose to come off, then I'm missing out. I can't afford to miss out. I need to keep up with my friends. I need to keep up with the business. I need to keep up with the trends because this, whatever it might be. So if you're the only one, that's shit. But if everyone does it, then it's like no one did it ever. It doesn't matter. And that's what we need to do. We need to start making these choices, these really grown-up adult choices to make, put these things in place and stop comparing ourselves in these really, really non-serving manners, because it doesn't fucking help anyone. So be careful what you compare and who you compare yourself to and how. Super, super important. But comparing yourself to your peers in real life can be a really, really beneficial thing. And I put down here, basically aim for the middle of a fucking great team. That's where you want to be, if possible. And every now and again, that middle might be the top, and that middle might be the bottom. But on average, you're a basically middle player in a fucking great team of life. And so when I do the free workouts with the boys, some of them are faster. Some of them, we've got one dude, he's a strongman type dude, so he's way stronger. But he's not got as good endurance. So I go, well, if I compare he's fucking like 6'2", 6'2", he's a giant of a dude. So if I compare myself to him, I think, well, I can't lift what he can lift. Yeah, you can't lift what he can lift. But he can't do what you can do. So shut the fuck up whining about the things you can't do and focus on the things you can do really well. Comparatively, you can keep up. You're not the fastest. No, you're not the fastest. But comparatively, you're not the slowest. You can keep up. You're in the middle of a good group. And so you focus on these kind of things. Like, oh, this guy has a great relationship and great kids. Yes, he does. But he's stressed the fuck out at work. And you, mate, you don't have that right now. You're in a really, really great position where you do get to really focus on and look after your health, because you've never, ever done that. And this is imperative if you're to have a future. So fuck comparing yourself to these other guys that do have these things at your age, and you're supposed to have these things that coming up to 40. Doesn't matter, mate. Yeah, compare you now to old you, and you now can breathe, and old you couldn't. So right there, so long as you can breathe, the rest is easy. Yeah, well, okay, I'm breathing much, much better. So don't worry about anything else just yet. Compare certain things at certain times when it serves you, when it's healthy. Okay, so comparing yourself to those around you is great. And it's great to know, you know what, these are dudes my age, few younger, few older, but my age, roughly, give or take 5 years. Yeah, some 10 years, but it doesn't matter. They're my age, they're in my community. So if shit kicks off, if shit goes sideways, I actually have to compare myself to these guys. I might have to join in with them, or I might have to fight them. I don't know what's going to happen. I would hope that people are on my side and shit like that, but you never know what tomorrow might bring. And to be so naive as to think, well, it'll never happen to me where I live in my lifetime, you're a fucking fool. Because so many things have happened to me so often, I'd be an absolute moron to assume that nothing is ever going to happen ever, so long as I shall live. And you just look around, you think, okay, at what point in history, at any point on the planet, has there been no violence, no fights, no rows, no this, no war, no. Fucking no. And even if it's not from another person, nature's going to come along and kick your ass at some point. So comparing yourself to those around, you think, okay, well, so look, you know, if shit kicks off, could I outrun most of these motherfuckers? Yeah. If I couldn't outrun them, could I outfight them? Yeah. And if I couldn't outfight them, in terms of skill, could I just be so fucking dogged-minded that I'm going to break their fist with my face and they're going to quit? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. Then you're all right, mate. Be confident. You're sound, son. If that's how you compare, and you can leave the house with that kind of peace of mind, value of peace of mind coming up, like and subscribe and all that, then great. Comparatively, am I as fast as Usain Bolt? Fucking no. Am I as strong as, I can't remember the latest strong man, but let's just say Eddie Hall because he's the last one I remember. Am I as strong as Eddie Hall? Fucking no. But would I want their lives? No. Would I want to done the things that they've done in the areas that... No. I'm putting my own hard work in my own ways and living my life, my journey. If I compare mine to theirs, I'm a fucking fool. Do not compare your beginning to someone else's middle or end. Don't compare your specific set of circumstances to someone else one thing and then just assume that... No, it just doesn't... That's not how life works. We have to decide. And we have to really carefully decide what we compare, when and how. But comparing oneself in real life to one's friends and one's peers and acquaintances and people in their geographic area is a much healthier way of approaching comparison. So the other thing I was doing is I'm looking on YouTube and I'm watching other people's stuff. Now this dude, I can't remember his name, but I saw him on a podcast and I thought the interviewer was rubbish, but I thought he was great. So I looked at some more of his stuff. I think he does psych hacks. And he's a psychologist and he's this dude and he's very just matter of fact and he's very straight down the line. He says, look, you might not want to hear it, but this is just the way it is. It's not a, oh yeah, I think this, I think that. It's a behavioural thing. This is how we behave. It's, you know, you analyse after the fact. You don't say, oh, I would definitely do that in this case. Fucking would you? Whereas afterwards you go, no, you did that. This is what the data shows. And so he presents that, and some people don't like it, but I really liked his delivery. I really liked how he was a good interviewee while the interviewer was crap. So I followed up with some of his stuff, and I was watching some of his early-ish videos, but not even that old. And I was like, wow, man, comparatively, the set looks pretty rubbish in terms of he's just done it in office sometimes and this and this. The videos quality, the sound quality is pretty rubbish. And he's actually not got that many views compared to now. He's almost got 500,000 followers. And yet these early videos have only, you know, got a few thousand views. But what he was saying was actually really useful and valuable and well worth saying. And so comparatively, I thought, mate, okay, I'm doing great. You know, this guy was 3 years into his journey, I think, and he's done all these things previously. And he's still at that level. So comparatively, when I tried out the new camera and stuff the other day I didn't like, I feel brilliant. Oh, absolutely fantastic. Now I can compare myself. I've got like 33 followers and he's got nearly 500,000. So comparatively, I'm shit. But that would be the wrong thing to focus on. Video quality wise and message wise, I'm like, We've got the same kind of thing to say. We've got a slight different angle. He's coming from a much more professional. There's no real humour in anything that he says. It's a very more flat delivery, coming more like a clinical psychologist delivery. I'm a bit more wild and wacky, and coming from the I am the guinea pig, first person perspective. I can only tell you from my personal experience. I can't tell you from studies or from data, but we're kind of saying the same thing, and we have the same kind of mission and same kind of goals. So I'd love to do something with him at some point. I don't do names really on this. You notice I just say a lot of this and that's and the overs and unders and roundabouts and a mate here and a friend there. I don't do names just because it doesn't fucking matter. So the other thing you can do is you can future compare. So you can compare you to past you. So for example, I never used to be able to do 1 press up. Now I can do 5 press ups. Go fucking you. Yay you. Okay. Oh, I used to be 500 stone, pounds, kilos, whatever the fuck. Massively different things there, by the way. And now I'm 100 stone, 500, 100 kilos, whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter. The idea being you can compare old you to current you, and you can say, I have improved. Piano-wise, drums-wise, I've improved. Drums-wise, I'm probably worse than I used to be, comparatively speaking. Piano, I've always improved, because I've kept at it. Drums, I need to get better again, and then improve on what I used to be with discipline and with restraint, and just with more reps. That's it. I just need to put in the reps. There is no substitute for reps. That really is it. So I can compare these things, but I can get disheartened. Oh, I'm not as good on the drums as I used to be. Or I can say to myself, I'm not as good on the drums as I used to be, but I know I can get way better. And then comparatively speaking, I will be as good as I think I should and could be. Same deal goes for piano. Anything that goes on the drums will transfer to piano, and I will be as good as the things that I can imagine in my brain and things that I know that I'm capable of. And I'm like, oh, that's fun. So that takes me on to future comparison. I can compare me to future me in this way. If I do the thing, if I do the 10 minutes of drums and I do the 10 minutes of piano every day, and I do that for the next 10 years, so by the time I'm, let's just say 50, then I can compare now me to future me and think, that dude is going to have his shit down. He's going to be dialed in. But if I don't do that, and if I don't do any drum practice and don't do any piano practice, and I just stop playing altogether, 10 years down the line, that dude is barely going to remember anything, and he's going to be super, super sloppy at everything he does, and is basically going to be a has-been. And that's really sad. So I think, well, if I compare those two futures, which guy do I want to be? The guy who can sit at the drums and fucking groove all day, and the guy who can sit at the piano and express himself the way he wants to and do all these cool little things that he imagines and just amuse himself? If nothing else, if the whole world turns to shit and it's just me and a piano on a mountaintop, can I fucking, yeah man, do I want to stay alive? Fuck yes I do. I can do so much on this piano. I can express me and the keys, man. We can have a conversation for years and years and years to come. So you can compare you to future you by adding in an action and timesing it by a year, 10 years, whatever the fuck. Or taking out an action can be just as beneficial. If I quit smoking, drinking, fucking around, whatever it might be, if I quit video games, if I do the thing today and I times that by a year, 10 years, what's the difference there? And oftentimes it's harder to not do the thing than it is to introduce a new thing. Just taking something out, leaving some rest space, or just going, well, I'm just going to take more time with these things. I'm removing something, more time for these things, or removing something and just have free time. Heaven forbid that nowadays. No, we must optimize. Value of optimization coming up. But these things are perfectly possible, and we don't necessarily get there any faster by doing more stuff. We just, like I said, if there's your tempo, you can have or you got it's the same fucking thing. You can fill it with more shit. It's the same thing. Same with the room in the house. You can fill it with more and more shit. It's the same room. The house on the street, you can fill it with more shit. It's the same space on the street. So more isn't always more. Comparatively speaking, more will often crush you and mean less. Anyway, so it's very, very important that you realise that compound interest, as I said before, the value of, that if I compare me to future me 10 years, if I add an action, positive action, healthy action to the direction you want to be going, where does that take me? And you can just imagine, you might not spot on, you're not going to get the exact details right, but you'll get a good idea. And if I don't do that thing, where does it leave me? Plus, if I'm doing a thing now that's holding me back, if I remove that thing, where does it leave me? And if I keep that thing in, and just think, you're not going to be in the same place, you're going to be worse off. If you keep that thing in, give it another 10 years to grind on you, give it another 10 years to eat away at you, give it another 10 years to stress you out and break you down, you're going to be in a way worse place. These things times and then they compound. It's not just a this plus this. It's very rarely, very, very rarely the way this shit works. Because it's habits, and habits we do every day. This is why, you see, I think when it comes to comparisons kind of stuff and a journey and a learning journey, kids should teach kids and adults should teach adults. Like experts should teach experts. So the idea being, if you've got someone in their 60s who's so far down that rabbit hole that they're so expert that the idea of just explaining it to a 4-year-old in the most basic terms, they're just like, oh, fuck off. That is actually more taxing on my brain than explaining all this really, really complex stuff, because to go back there again, to find motivation and the energy and the botheredness, I just can't give a fuck. But if you've got a 5-year-old, get them being taught by a 12, 13-year-old. Because they can see more that gap than they can a 5-year-old being taught by a 95-year-old. They can relate more. Comparatively speaking, they're much more closer in age. And then the 12-year-old go, I remember being there just basically yesterday. I remember struggling with that exact same thing. When you're so much older, it's really hard to compare because so many years have passed. So I genuinely think, again, if you look at any kind of tribal communities that exist, it's oftentimes the teenagers, the young teens, the tweens, whatever you call them, looking after the younger babies and the toddlers. Yes, the adults are there bigger picture-wise, and yes, they will do, but they're learning, they're playing with more their peers. So comparatively speaking, they're only a few steps ahead. Yeah, they're only a few lessons ahead. They're not so polished. They're not so perfect. It actually makes you feel better about learning. And then those teenagers, they learn from people in their 20s and the people who are fitter and healthy and kind of, the top of their game, but not as wise and as considered as, as they will be, and not maybe with the honed in technique. And then you get the elders, the wiser members of the community, and they can just take more of a back seat and they go, no, you've got it. For the most part, you're nailing it. But I've observed this habit over a period of time. Just keep an eye out for that. Do the work, keep doing the work. You're doing fine, you're doing great. I, at this point in my life, can't do better than you, but I can still coach you because I know what I see and I know what I've experienced. And even if I can't do it better myself, I can aid you in doing it better for yourself and then for those behind you. And so that's the comparative thing we need to do. So I compare myself not to the best, not to the wisest, not to the smartest, not to the strongest. No, to those just a few steps ahead of me. And that's the way to do these things. That's the way to learn. It's a very humbling experience, obviously, comparison. But it can be a humbling experience in a really beneficial way if we set ourselves up to succeed in that way. And the other thing I just want you to do right now is just compare your life to my life. And ask yourself, what are you going to do next once this video finishes? Because I'm going to go outside and I'm going to go for a run and be active and exercise. And if you're not going to do that, you should feel really, really shit about your life.